I never expected a simple text message to shatter my carefully constructed world. Aunt Elle, I need you. Mom's losing it again, but this time it's different. Please come. My niece Ivy rarely reached out, so when my phone lit up during a crucial meeting with my magazine's editorial team, I knew something was seriously wrong. My name is Alara, and until that moment, I thought I'd successfully escaped the gravitational pull of my family's drama. I'd built a life for myself in the city, award-winning journalist, rising fashion influencer, and happily engaged. But family has a way of dragging you back, no matter how far you run. I made some excuse to my team and drove the 40 minutes to my childhood home, my hands tight on the steering wheel. The familiar tree-lined street looked peaceful enough, but the moment I pulled into the driveway, I heard the screaming. She's doing this on purpose. My sister Tamsin's voice carried through an open window. Did you see her latest Instagram post? 300,000 followers now. She's rubbing it in my face. I found Ivy sitting on the front steps, hugging her knees to her chest. Her dark hair fell forward, hiding her face, but I could see her shoulders shaking. When she looked up, her eyes were red-rimmed. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't know who else to call. Inside, my parents hovered around Tamsin like worried birds, while she paced the living room, gesturing at her phone. The moment she saw me, she froze. Well, look who decided to grace us with her presence, Tamsin said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. The golden child herself. What's going on? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. What's going on? Tamsin laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. What's going on is that you've spent years building your perfect little life while systematically destroying mine. Every success, every achievement, every magazine cover, it's all just another way to show everyone how much better you are than your sad divorced sister. Tamsin, that's not. Don't you dare deny it. She hurled her phone across the room. It hit the wall with a crack, making our mother jump. You've always been like this, always had to be the star. And now you're getting married, and of course, it has to be the event of the season, doesn't it? I looked at my parents, hoping for support, but they just stood there, wringing their hands. They'd always enabled Tamsin's outbursts, her victim complex. But something in her eyes today was different, darker, more dangerous. I won't let you overshadow me anymore, she said quietly, and a chill ran down my spine. This time, things are going to be different. The drive home from my parents' house felt longer than usual. My hands were still shaking when I pulled into my driveway, where Theo was waiting on the front steps. One look at my face and he knew. Tamsin, he asked, pulling me into a hug. I nodded against his chest, breathing in his familiar scent. She's gotten worse. Way worse. Inside, I kicked off my heels and collapsed onto our couch. My phone buzzed. Another message from Ivy. Mom's been going through old photo albums all evening. She keeps talking about your wedding dress shopping tomorrow. I thought you weren't taking Tamsin dress shopping, Theo said, reading over my shoulder. I'm not. I already bought my dress last month. I didn't tell them because I trailed off, remembering the last time I'd tried including Tamsin in a major life event. My college graduation should have been a celebration. Instead, Tamsin had shown up drunk, made a scene during the ceremony, and later told our parents I'd deliberately scheduled it when she was going through a rough patch to steal their attention. You can't keep walking on eggshells forever, Theo said gently. At some point, my phone rang. Mother's name flashed on the screen. I put it on speaker. Alara, darling, about tomorrow's dress appointment. There is no appointment, Mother. I already have my dress. A long pause. You. What? But Tamsin's been so excited about helping you choose. She's been telling everyone how you two are finally bonding as sisters again. Of course she has, I muttered. Because that's what Tamsin does. She creates these scenarios in her head and then blames everyone else when reality doesn't match up. That's not fair, Alara. Your sister is trying. After everything with Nolan. Everything with Nolan? I stood up, pacing. You mean how she cheated on him, then played victim when he left? How she used Ivy as a weapon in their divorce? That everything. You've always been so hard on her, Mother sighed. Would it kill you to let her have this one thing? I caught my reflection in the window, tired eyes, tense shoulders. Behind me, Theo shook his head, knowing where this was headed. Fine, I said finally. Tell Tamsin I'll pick her up at 10 tomorrow. We can look at dresses. But I'm not buying anything. After hanging up, I turned to Theo. I know what you're thinking. That you're setting yourself up for another Tamsin tornado? Yeah, pretty much. He was right, of course. But what choice did I have? Sometimes keeping the peace meant playing along with Tamsin's delusions. At least, that's what I told myself. If only I'd known then what tomorrow would bring. The bridal boutique was exactly as I'd left it a month ago, except this time, Tamsin's reflection loomed behind me in every mirror. She'd been suspiciously quiet during the drive over, but the moment we stepped inside, her mask slipped. Oh, these are all wrong for you, she said, fingering the lace on a designer gown. You need something less showy, more appropriate for your figure. I bit my tongue, remembering my promise to keep the peace. But then my phone buzzed, a message from Ivy that made my blood run cold. Found Mom's diary. She's planning something bad. Really bad. Everything okay? Tamsin asked, her voice honey-sweet as she peered over my shoulder. I locked my phone quickly. Fine. Just work. Always work with you, isn't it? Speaking of which. She pulled out her own phone, showing me her Instagram feed. Notice anything strange? All my followers seem to be disappearing. Funny timing, right after you became that magazine's social media darling. I have nothing to do with your followers, Tamsin. Right. Just like you had nothing to do with Nolan leaving me. The saleswoman approached with a rack of dresses, but Tamsin waved her away. We won't be needing those. My sister already has her dress. Don't you, Alara? My stomach dropped. How did she know? I saw the charge on Mom's credit card statement, she continued. The one she lets you use for emergencies. Quite generous of her, considering my card was canceled after my divorce. That's not. Save it. Tamsin's face hardened. You know what's funny? Ivy's been begging for dance lessons for months, but we can't afford them. Meanwhile, you're charging $1,000 dresses to Mom's card. Another message from Ivy flashed on my phone. Mom took something from your house yesterday when you were at work. Something important. The room seemed to spin. Yesterday? But how? You've been in my house? My voice shook. Tamsin smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Mom still has the spare key. You know, for emergencies. I needed to borrow something. Sister's privilege, right? What did you take? She turned to leave, pausing at the door. You always did look better in white than me. Shame if anything happened to that dress before the big day. As she walked out, my phone lit up one last time. Ivy had sent a photo, my wedding dress, hanging in Tamsin's closet, with scissors lying ominously nearby. The message below it read, I'm sorry, Aunt Elle. She made me help her take it. Said if I didn't, she'd stop me from seeing you all together. I sat in my car outside Tamsin's house, staring at the photo of my wedding dress. 3 calls to my mother had gone straight to voicemail. Typical. The moment things got messy, she'd disappear, leaving me to handle Tamsin's chaos alone. My phone rang. Nolan's name flashed on the screen. Tamsin's ex-husband rarely called. Don't go in there, he said without preamble. Whatever Tamsin's done, whatever she's threatening, just stay away. She has my wedding dress. A heavy sigh. Of course she does. Listen, Alara, there's something you need to know. The reason we really split up. A tap on my window made me jump. Ivy stood there, keys in hand, glancing nervously at the house. I have to go, I told Nolan. I'll call you back. Ivy led me through the side door, her shoulders tense. Mom's at therapy. We have 20 minutes max. The house was a maze of moving boxes and scattered papers. Are you moving? I asked. Mom says we need a fresh start. Away from. Ivy trailed off, avoiding my eyes. Away from me? She opened her mother's bedroom door. My dress hung there, pristine and white against the chaos of the room. But something else caught my eye, a familiar leather-bound notebook on the bedside table. Is that? Mom's therapy journal, Ivy said quietly. The one she started after the divorce. You should read it. Ivy, I can't. Please. You need to understand what she's planning. With trembling hands, I opened the journal. Pages of Tamsin's flowing script detailed her spiral after Nolan left, but it wasn't grief over losing him. It was rage at me. For supporting him. For testifying in the custody hearing. For stealing her life. The latest entry made my blood freeze. When Alara's perfect day falls apart, when she feels what I felt, she'll finally understand. And mother and father will see her for what she really is. There's more, Ivy whispered, pulling out her phone. She showed me a series of texts between Tamsin and my wedding planner, messages sent from an email address almost identical to mine. Canceling vendors, changing dates. She's trying to destroy your wedding, Ivy said. But that's not even the worst part. She's been telling everyone you're the one who broke up her marriage. That you and Nolan. A car door slammed outside. Tamsin was home early. Ivy's eyes went wide. The back door. Hurry! I grabbed my dress and ran, but as I reached my car, my phone buzzed with a message from my mother. We need to talk about what Tamsin told me about you and Nolan. How could you do this to your own sister? My parents' house loomed before me, a perfect suburban facade hiding the mess within. I'd driven straight here after fleeing Tamsin's, my wedding dress carefully laid across the back seat. The front door opened before I could knock. How dare you show up here, Mother hissed, blocking the entrance. After what you've done? What I've done. Have you seen what Tamsin wrote in her journal? The emails she's been sending? Don't try to deflect. Nolan called here looking for you earlier. Said you needed to talk about the truth of what happened during the divorce. My phone buzzed. Another message from Nolan. Tamsin's telling everyone about the hotel meeting. You need to explain before. The hotel meeting? Mother's voice cracked. She'd read over my shoulder. So it's true. No. I met Nolan at that hotel to help him file the custody paperwork. Tamsin was using Ivy as a weapon. You know she was. The way you're using Ivy now? Tamsin appeared behind Mother, eyes gleaming. Sneaking into my house, poisoning my daughter against me? That's not. I saw the security footage. Tamsin cut in. You and Ivy, going through my private things. Just like you went through my marriage, my life, taking whatever you wanted. Father emerged from his study, face grim. We found the letters, Alara. What letters? Tamsin produced a stack of papers with flourish. Love letters, apparently between Nolan and me, dated during his marriage to Tamsin. My stomach dropped, the signatures, the writing style, all perfectly forged. I never wrote those. Really? Tamsin's voice dripped honey. Then why did Nolan keep them? Why were they in his desk at work? The pieces clicked. You planted those when you cleaned out his office after the divorce. See how she twists everything? Tamsin turned to our parents. Always the victim, never the villain. My phone rang, Ivy. I answered on speaker. Aunt Elle, Mom's planning to. Ivy, hang up right now. Tamsin snapped. No. Aunt Elle, she's going to tell everyone at your wedding about. Tamsin grabbed the phone. Go to your room. I heard Ivy's muffled protest before the call cut off. Something in me snapped. Enough, I said quietly. You can spread lies about me. You can try to ruin my wedding. But you will not use Ivy as a pawn anymore. Or what? Tamsin smiled. You'll cut us all off? Abandon your family? Go ahead. Show everyone exactly who you really are. I looked at my parents, seeing only judgment in their eyes. 20 years of Tamsin's manipulation had worked perfectly. Maybe I will, I said, turning to leave. Because this isn't family. This is poison. The bridal shop security footage played on my laptop screen, showing exactly what I'd feared. Tamsin hadn't just stolen my dress. She'd returned it, claiming to be me, then bought an identical one. The timestamp showed it happened hours after our confrontation. She's going to switch them, Theo said, pacing our living room. Probably already has. My phone buzzed with another message from Ivy. Mom's acting weird. She keeps talking about your wedding day being unforgettable. Before I could respond, Nolan called. The letters, he said without greeting. I know where she got the paper. What? Company letterhead. She must have taken it when she cleared out my office. Alara, There's something else. Something I never told anyone about why I really left. A text from my mother cut across the screen. The caterer just called. Said you canceled the entire order. Another buzz. Venue manager here. Confirming your request to move the wedding to next month. She's systematically destroying everything, I whispered, watching the messages flood in. Using my name, my credentials. We can fix this, Theo insisted. We'll call everyone, explain. Explain what? That my sister's trying to ruin our wedding? That she's been forging documents and impersonating me? Will sound crazy. My phone rang again, Ivy. Aunt Elle? Mom's gone too far. She's telling people you're only marrying Theo for his money. That you did the same thing with Dad, tried to steal him. The room spun. I grabbed the counter for support. There's more, Ivy's voice cracked. She's planning something for the wedding. Something big. I found receipts for black hair dye, and she's having this white dress altered. The pieces clicked into horrible place. Tamsin wasn't just trying to ruin my wedding. She was planning to become me, to create a scene so spectacular it would destroy not just my marriage, but my entire reputation. Another text from Mother. The family agrees. Until you admit what you did to Tamsin, you're not welcome at Sunday dinners. Or any family events. I looked at my reflection in the window, tired, defeated, alone. Years of building my life, my career, my relationships. And Tamsin was systematically burning it all down. Maybe we should postpone, Theo said quietly. Give things time to. That's exactly what she wants. My voice sounded hollow. She wins if we cancel. She wins if we don't. She's made sure there's no way out. My phone lit up one last time, a photo from an unknown number. My wedding dress, now dyed a deep, cruel black, hanging like a specter in Tamsin's closet. The message below read, "Every fairy tale needs a villain. Ready to play your part, little sister?" The morning of my wedding dawned bright and clear. I stood in the bridal suite, staring at my reflection when the door clicked open. Tamsin stepped in, wearing an exact replica of my wedding dress. Surprised, she smiled, smoothing the white fabric. You always did have excellent taste. Get out. That's no way to talk to your maid of honor. She pulled out a folded paper, the original wedding program with her name listed. The one I'd changed weeks ago. You're not in the wedding party, Tamsin. You're not even invited. Mom and Dad disagree. They're quite insistent that their daughters reconcile on this special day. Her smile turned predatory. Unless you'd like me to share those letters with all your guests? The door opened again. Ivy slipped in, carrying a garment bag. Her eyes darted between us. Now, Tamsin continued, here's what's going to happen. You'll wear the dress I altered, the black one. Fitting, don't you think? The villain dressed appropriately for once. Mom, stop, Ivy started. Not now, sweetie. The adults are talking. Tamsin stepped closer. You'll walk down that aisle in black. And everyone will finally see what I've always known. That perfect Alara is just as dark inside as the rest of us. Or what? Or I tell everyone how you tried to steal Nolan. How you're trying to steal Ivy now. How? I took the dress, Ivy blurted out. Tamsin froze. What? The original wedding dress. I took it. You didn't find it. I gave it to you. Because I wanted. Ivy's voice cracked. I wanted you to love me like you love your revenge. Ivy, go to your seat. Now. No. Ivy opened the garment bag, revealing my original dress, pristine and white. I switched them back. And I showed Dad the receipts for the hair dye, the fake dress. Everything. Tamsin lunged for the dress, but Ivy stepped back. In the movement, something fell from Tamsin's purse, a small recorder. What's that? I asked, though I already knew. Evidence, Tamsin spat. Your confession about Nolan, about everything. Play it, Ivy said quietly. What? Play the tape, Mom. Show everyone what you recorded when you thought you were tricking Aunt Elle. Show them what you actually caught instead. Tamsin's face went white. Because we all knew what was really on that tape, her own voice, planning, plotting, confessing everything in her therapy sessions. Sessions Ivy had been secretly recording for weeks. It's over, Tamsin, I said softly. The only villain in this story is the one you created yourself. The door opened one final time. Nolan stood there, with our parents behind him. Their faces a mix of horror and realization as they took in both white dresses and Tamsin's crumbling facade. Ready to tell them the truth? Nolan asked. All of it. 6 months after my wedding, I sat across from Tamsin in a quiet coffee shop. Her hair had returned to its natural color, and the sharp edges of her smile had softened. Between us sat divorce papers. She was finally letting Nolan go. Ivy got accepted to art school, she said, signing the last page. Full scholarship. I know. She called me yesterday. A silence stretched between us, heavy with unspoken words. After the wedding day revelation, Tamsin had checked herself into therapy, real therapy this time. Our parents had finally seen the truth, though healing those relationships would take years, if ever. I found more letters, Tamsin said suddenly. Ones I'd written but never sent. To you, mostly. Trying to explain. She trailed off, pushing an envelope across the table. I left it unopened. Some wounds didn't need reopening. You know what's funny? She continued, stirring her untouched coffee. I spent years trying to tear you down because I thought you had everything I wanted. But watching you walk down that aisle after everything I did, you looked happy. Truly happy. That's when I realized I'd never felt that way myself. My phone buzzed, a text from Ivy showing her latest art piece. A portrait of 2 sisters, faces half in shadow, half in light. She titled it Reconciliation. The question mark said everything. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Tamsin said, reading my expression. I don't deserve it. But Ivy does deserve better than what I've been. What I made her become. She's stronger than both of us, I replied, thinking of how my niece had ultimately saved us from ourselves. As I stood to leave, Tamsin caught my arm. The dress. The black one. I kept it. To remind me. Of what? That sometimes the villains in our stories are the ones we create ourselves. Outside, Theo waited in our car. Through the window, I watched Tamsin gather her things, no longer the towering figure of my nightmares. Just a woman trying to find her way back to herself. My phone buzzed again. Mother, asking about Sunday dinner. Some bridges were slowly being rebuilt, while others would remain in ashes. And maybe that was okay. Ready to go? Theo asked as I slid into the passenger seat. I looked at the envelope from Tamsin, still unopened. Maybe I'd read it someday. Or maybe some stories were better left unfinished, making room for new ones to begin. Yeah, I said, tucking the envelope away. Let's go home. In my purse, Ivy's portrait showed 2 sisters, forever caught between shadow and light. The question mark hanging between them like a promise, or a warning, of all the chapters yet to come.